I'm Leanne Tran, psychologist who's worked with families whose kids don't fit the mould for almost 20 years. I've worked with children for decades, but I know parents are the real change makers when it comes to their kids. Having 3 kids of my own means I know it's not easy. Parent Like a Psychologist is all about simplifying how you support your kids with psychology information filtered through years of experience to take you from overwhelmed to confident. Come on in. Hey parents, so great to be able to connect with you again. I feel like often I can bring this calm energy to my sessions, but today I've got that hurried kind of get things done before the school pickup time vibes. I don't know if any of you can relate to that feeling of just having to get a few more things done before you head off to do the school run. It's sometimes really difficult. But anyway, that's totally not related to what I want to talk about either, which in this episode is just relates to a few conversations I've had with other parents recently about how they maybe get a diagnosis or their child does, and then they kind of think, but now what? I still don't understand it. And I think there are a lot of things that your child's diagnosis doesn't tell you, and I wanted to talk through those things today. A diagnosis sometimes can feel like a light bulb moment or a bit of clarity, but sometimes there's confusion as well. And then there's usually this question of, but then what? There are some things that are not in the report written by a psychologist or pediatrician. And that's things like, your child's strengths and challenges. Also, diagnoses can look different in every child as well, or all children. So it doesn't really explain the full picture. And I want to talk today about why it's important to move beyond that checklist of behaviors or things that might make a diagnosis, and talk about how the picture is bigger than just that. So, what your child's diagnosis doesn't tell you. You might have been in this position where you are trying to understand your child and what support they need. You get a diagnosis, maybe it's autism, ADHD, or a learning disorder. And for a minute, it feels like everything clicks. That's that light bulb moment I was talking about. And some parents are relieved. Some parents feel validated that their concerns have been heard. Sometimes parents feel shock or disappointment. And it's also common that those parents might also have seen the diagnosis coming. They think about it, they're prepared for it, but they still have this moment of shock. But what I think is common for parents is to have this feeling of, but what next? Now what? What am I meant to do? It's almost like the diagnosis opens a door, but it doesn't walk you through it. And it doesn't really give you the map to navigate what comes next. So I want to talk today about what a child's diagnosis doesn't tell you, and how all those other parts can help you flesh out that map about what you're going to do next and how to navigate it. Sometimes these things other than the diagnosis matter so much more when it comes to parenting support that actually works and making sure your child gets the support that they need. So let's start by talking about what a diagnosis does give you. I think there are some positives from a diagnosis. Some parents worry about labeling and how their child might be boxed in or put in a box that's all that people see. But I think all decisions are valid, and all families make different decisions that are right for them. But I think what a diagnosis can give you is a language for what's going on. So I say often that the more we understand our child, the more empathic we can be, or have the more empathy we can have. And that leads to us having more patience. The same can be true for other people in your child's life as well. And this diagnosis is what can give you the language so that other people know a little bit more or are a little bit more informed about what's happening for your child. It also might mean that you get access to funding, some support, or accommodations at school. So, opening up for more opportunities for your child can be a good thing as well. It also can give you a bit of a framework to maybe stop blaming yourself as a parent for what's going on. Maybe stop blaming your child as well. You might have a see it in a new way, that rather than being not doing what your child's told, they're actually struggling with certain things. So that can be really helpful as well. All of these things are well, it's support and funding is one part, but the other thing is all helping you and other people in your child's life to shift their perspective. Sometimes that can bring a real sense of relief, and it might mean that you understand things about your child that you didn't before. So, example, rather than thinking your child's just naughty or lazy, which are common things that we get told by other people in our lives, you might understand that they're navigating with a different brain that fits into this world that expects everybody to do it a certain way. But the diagnosis is a label, but it's just only one part of the story. Let's talk then about what your child's diagnosis doesn't tell you. There's a whole lot about this. It doesn't tell you who your child is. It also doesn't change who your child is. So, from one day to the next, knowing that they meet the criteria for a certain diagnosis doesn't change who your child is. Um, but it also won't tell you who your child is. So, I mentioned before that lots of times people with different diagnoses, or the same diagnosis, I should say, are incredibly different. So, if we use yeah, all of these things, autism, ADHD, learning challenges, there are differences between child to child. Some kids, for example, with ADHD might have trouble paying attention, so they're kind of distracted a lot. Others might be really hyperactive or impulsive. So the one label doesn't let you know exactly what your child is like. There's differences between boys and girls as well. Some children mask and cover up their difficulties well. Other kids don't do that, so you can see what they're struggling with. So yeah, the one label does not present it doesn't mean the same version of a picture for all kids. The other thing too is that the what was I going to say? Oh, I've lost it. But anyway, it won't tell you individual parts about your child either. So it won't tell you, for example, that your child's quite funny and kind, but that they have a meltdown after school because they've run out of energy, their bucket's empty. It doesn't tell you that they want to do really well, but their brain forgets the instruction halfway through the task. And that maybe what looks like disrespect is really something like overwhelm and difficulty managing every demand we put on them. It doesn't explain how kids feel, especially when they can't keep up with their peers or can't do the same things as others. It doesn't explain why sometimes praise backfires, or what to do when your kid hits their sibling or says, I hate you, before they go to bed. These are all the things that parents struggle with. So I want to really reassure you that the difficulties that you have with parenting is not just because of the label your child has. It's because, first of all, parenting is hard. Parenting well is hard. It takes effort. It takes persistence. So there's that. But also, all of our children are different and they all need different things from us. Your child who has a diagnosis of ADHD or autism will need some things that other kids don't. But they won't need the same things as another autistic child or another ADHDer. You need to, and it's the nuance and the ups and downs of, or like, the makeup of your particular child is what you need to understand in order to do the parenting stuff well. That's the bit that you can't get just from a label. It doesn't let you know what to expect in terms of your parenting. Um, yeah, so that's why all of the individual, all psychologists, I guess, will help you in an individual way to find what's right for your child and your family. This is why I think we need, I want to talk a little bit about why we need more than a label as well. I think because the diagnosis is the what, and like I've said, it tells you some of the things your child will find hard, but not everything. And if the diagnosis is the what, then the parenting is the how. The diagnosis doesn't tell you, oh, it tells you some of the steps of how, but not all of them. So it doesn't tell you things like, how do I connect with my child? And how do I connect with them when they're pushing me away? How do I help them with routines, with emotions, or with homework meltdowns? Or how do I stay calm when they can't? All of these things depend on your individual child and you as a parent. This is where a lot of parents feel stuck, in my experience. And I think it's because that, the diagnosis has opened up some part of understanding, but now you need skills, confidence, and this new way of seeing your child. You often don't need more behavior charts, or sticker systems. You need tools that actually work with your child's brain, and with yours, because you keeping calm and confident is a big part of it. And these aren't the things that you'll just naturally receive in a diagnostic report from a psychologist. I'm really sorry to say, because wouldn't that be great if we got all of the answers there? So let's talk a little bit about what to do next. Here is the good news. Once you, I was going to say once you move beyond the label, but first I think it's really important to learn the information that goes along with the label. So, for example, you can learn lots of stuff about what it's like to have an ADHD brain and what kids with ADHD struggle with. You can learn a lot about what it's like having an autistic brain and the challenges that come with that, trying to be squished into a school system that's still kind of keeping up with how to do things differently for each student. You can learn about things like anxiety and learning disorders and how that affects your child, because that's really valuable information. But then when you look at moving beyond the label, it's about understanding how to see how those things affect your individual child. And so there's a few ways that you can do this. The first is, I think, by trying to start noticing their patterns. Um, Notice what are the things that your child can routinely do well, that routinely makes them happy, lights them up inside. And also you can start noticing the times when things don't go well. And that lets you know what your kid is having trouble with. So notice a lot about your child. Be really curious and don't assume that you understand why they're doing what they're doing. Be really curious about what the possible underlying reason is. Don't be too quick to assume that they don't care, or they're naughty, or they don't love you, or that kind of stuff. It's usually a lot more complex than that. The second thing I'd suggest is to try to shift from reacting to things to responding. And so the way I describe this difference is that reacting is what we just do in the moment. It's automatic. Um, if sometimes I talk with parents about when we say things and we think, oh my gosh, my mother is here. Like, it's the words come out and they sound like your mother or your father, and they don't sound like you didn't choose them. You don't normally even say that, but it's just that really quick reactive parenting. The difference in responding is that you kind of take a breath and try and do it from a calm place and choose how you want to respond, um, that's in the best interests of keeping you and your child calm and solving problems in a rational way. Once you've started noticing your child and their patterns, and you've shifted from being reactive to kind of trying to be a lot more responsive by thinking about the future rather than just in that one moment letting your emotions take control, I think you start to maybe feel like you can do this, and that's a really good feeling to have. Trying to the way that in the Chaos to Calm program, what I do is take parents through this information that helps to try to shift perspective. First of all, it's to increase the understanding you have about your child, the strategies that often work for kids with differently wired brains, and then to help you discover that confidence again of feeling like you can do this. You can find strategies that will work for certain periods of time, and you have the ability to problem solve when they no longer work, and to be able to find something else. If your child has ADHD, there are lots of strategies that you can use that are different to what works for typical kids, or what typical parenting advice might be. And so a lot of those things are there in my programs to support your ADHD primary schooler, and then support your ADHD teenager as well. There's new strategies again, because one other thing I didn't mention is that what your child's diagnosis doesn't tell you is that the support they need will change over time. And so you parent a primary schooler very differently to how you parent a teenager. And so you need to change your parenting. So that's what both of those programs cover. And there's lots of good information in there for you. I try and walk parents through exactly what's going on in your child's brain at the time. And so how you can support them with more connection, less yelling and stress and chaos, and more strategies that actually fit with your family, so that you can feel confident in your parenting, and that you and your children can feel more calm day to day. Reducing those day-to-day stress levels is good for everybody's health, both physical health and mental health. The last little bit I wanted to talk about is that for a diagnosis doesn't equate to, or it doesn't automatically tell us what kids need in terms of support or intervention. And so an example there is that sometimes I read reports that say a child is autistic, so they need OT, psychology, and speech therapy. And I don't think that's automatically the case. I think it's more, the way I see it is that your child's diagnosis and the report that comes with it is a picture of one point in time. And just like all kids on the face of the earth, they will change and grow and develop. And the needs that they have will be different at different points throughout their life. So your child might be managing quite well with the support you're already using, and that's great. It doesn't mean you're not doing enough, it means that things are going well. They may need a psychologist for some help with something in the future, like anxiety. They may need help from an OT in the future to help manage, the load of work and assignments in high school. They might need a speech and language pathologist when they're young to help develop communication skills, and then they may not need that for a while. So it's important to have that conversation with somebody who can tell you about the types of supports and recommend what could help your child, but then for you to use that information in making your own decision about what's right for you as a family. Parenting a neurodivergent kid isn't about fixing them. It's not about changing them, and it's not about teaching them all the things they need to know in order to fit in. It's about understanding them, and that's where understanding the difference comes in, because it's just understanding the difference is just another tool that lets you understand your child, and that will help you meet their needs, and support your child, but also yourself as you go along. So if this episode's resonated with you, please let me know. Come and find me on Instagram or have a look on my website. You can sign up for newsletters that are designed to give you little bits of things to think about each week. And yeah, I would love to hear from you if there were parts of your child's diagnosis you feel weren't explained, or the things that you've learned since that's helped you make sense of it. If you are ready to stop Googling and looking for answers and need some support, you can learn more about either of those programs supporting your ADHD primary schooler or teenager on my website. They are ready to go. You can access them whenever you like and work your way through at your own pace. And then if you feel like you need more support, just keep an eye out. And the next time I'm running a group to take parents through the Chaos to Calm program, you can join me then. We would love to have you. So please do give me feedback if there's things that you found helpful, because I would love to share it, because I just know other parents will find it helpful as well. And I've got one experience, but mine is not the only one. So your advice can really help others as well. And I will be back to talk about maybe other things soon about how you can support your kids, maybe in the school environment. But until then, thank you for listening. And I wish you a calm and confident week. Thanks for listening to this episode of Parent Like a Psychologist. If you found it helpful, please share on Instagram so other parents can benefit too, and tag me at Leanne Tran Psychology so that I can say a big thank you. Head over to leannetran.com.au to join the village for bite-sized psychology tips straight to your inbox. I really hope this podcast has brought a new perspective and you a step closer towards a calm parent and a thriving child. Have a delightful day.